There are weddings, and then there are moments that feel like fate itself had been waiting to arrive. Camila stood just behind the tall doors of the ceremony hall, her breath caught in her chest. Outside, under a canopy of white roses, Malik waited. She wasn't nervous, she was certain. This was the man who had grown up beside her, who had seen her in every stage of life and still chose her. Their story wasn't just a love story, it was a lifetime, written from childhood laughter to quiet rooftop confessions. They were 5 when they first met. Both born into privilege, both raised in a quiet corner of Johannesburg, where gated estates held not just wealth, but stories. Their families were close. Her mother, a fashion designer, his father, an architect. And somehow, even in those early years, Camila and Malik found one another again and again. By the time they were 12, teachers joked they worked better together than any team. Camila, bold and creative. Malik, methodical and precise. She brought the fire. He brought the calm. People said they'd outgrow it, but the bond only grew deeper. At 16, Malik started to notice the way Camila's laughter filled every space like sunlight. Camila found herself watching him when he wasn't looking. At 19, they kissed for the first time, beneath the jasmine vines on Camila's rooftop. And now, years later, Camila stood dressed in a gown that shimmered with the memory of every step that had led them here. Her father waited at her side. He had been quiet all morning, too quiet. "Ready?" he asked. Camila nodded, unaware that her answer would become the last certain thing of the night. The doors opened, music swelled, Malik turned. Their eyes met, and in that moment, before the vows, before the dance, before the gift, something shifted in the air. Not wrong, just heavy, as if the world was holding its breath. They didn't know it yet, but this was the beginning of forever. And forever would be brief. Long before candlelight vows and orchestras playing under the stars, there were simpler beginnings. Camila and Malik grew up in the kind of neighborhood where legacy meant everything. Their mothers were visionaries in business, women who built their own names long before it was common. Their fathers, stoic, respected men, believed in tradition, in duty, in control. They often joked that their children would end up together. But it wasn't really a joke, it was an expectation. Camila, even as a girl, hated being boxed in. She drew patterns in the margins of her textbooks, not caring if teachers scolded her. Malik, on the other hand, followed the rules. But quietly, he always looked out for her, reminding her of deadlines, sliding notes when she forgot instructions. Not because he wanted to control her, but because he understood her chaos and loved it. By the time they were teenagers, their bond had become unshakable. Their parents saw it. Their teachers saw it. Even their classmates began to tease. "You two are basically married already," someone joked at a school event. Camila had laughed. Malik had smiled. But something shifted that night. A glance that lingered too long, a silence that felt full. Still, Camila resisted the story others wanted to write for her. She had dreams, big ones. Fashion that spoke to African heritage with modern force. She wanted her name on runways, her designs to break the mold. And marriage? That could wait. Malik understood, mostly. He was drawn to permanence. Architecture was, after all, the art of building things that lasted. And loving Camila felt like the most natural structure he'd ever designed. Their bond was strong, but not without tension. Camila feared becoming someone else's dream. Malik feared losing her to her own. The love was real, but so was the space between what each of them needed and what they feared giving up. Still, they chose each other. Again and again. When Malik got into the top architecture program in Johannesburg, Camila applied to a fashion school nearby. They moved into their separate apartments, but their weekends remained sacred. Long drives into the countryside, quiet breakfasts on Camila's balcony, whispered conversations about futures neither of them had fully figured out. And one night, under a starlit sky in Kenya, the question was asked. Not out of pressure, not out of fear, but because Malik had waited and Camila had decided. "Yes," she whispered. But even then, as the ring slipped onto her finger, she felt something deep inside her stir. A tiny voice. Not doubt, not regret, something older. As if part of her already sensed that some stories burn brightest right before they end. The engagement made headlines in more places than either of them expected. Fashion blogs showcased Camila's ring. Architecture journals featured Malik's early designs. They had become, without meaning to, a symbol. of legacy, of Black excellence, of modern African love that honored the past without being chained to it. But for them, it was simpler than all that. It was two people choosing each other. The wedding planning, though, was anything but simple. Camila, with her designer's eye, approached it like she did every collection, with precision, with emotion, with meaning in every thread. Malik stepped back, letting her lead, only chiming in when she asked for his thoughts. And always, his answer was the same: whatever feels like us. After weeks of searching, they chose a mountaintop estate in the Western Cape. It had been an old colonial property once, now repurposed into a modern sanctuary. Glass pavilions, ocean cliffs, white roses cascading from stone archways. It was beauty. But also, wait, a place that carried history in its bones. Camila could already see it, walking down the aisle beneath a canopy of light, the dress she sketched late one night on the back of a receipt, her mother helping her into it, Malik waiting at the altar. The day grew closer. The invitations, hand-pressed with gold ink, were sent to hundreds. Figures from fashion, architecture, politics, friends from school, mentors, family. Her father was unusually involved. He insisted on overseeing certain arrangements himself, not with the distant pride of a man writing checks, but something else. He kept asking Malik questions, small things about future plans, about finances, about safety. It didn't seem like doubt. It seemed like preparation. Camila noticed, but didn't press. Her father was always complex, protective, but guarded. She assumed it was his way of letting go. Then came the gift. It arrived 2 days before the ceremony in a black envelope with gold trim. No note, no explanation, just a set of coordinates, a flight manifest, and a reservation stamped, Cape Coastal Tour, private charter. A surprise, he told them. Something special to begin their new life. A short flight over the cliffs after the reception, just the two of them. A memory they'd never forget. Camila laughed. That's ridiculous. But her father just smiled. Exactly. The day arrived cloaked in gold. The Western Cape woke slowly, fog rising off the sea in delicate ribbons. By late afternoon, the sun hung low, casting honey-colored light across the mountain. The estate buzzed with quiet ceremony. Stylists, florists, musicians, all moving with rehearsed grace. Every detail was in place, and so was she. Camila stood before a mirror, her dress hugging her form like it had been sewn by memory. Beaded patterns whispered stories of her lineage across the fabric, Zulu, Xhosa, Khoisan, all blending into a modern silhouette that shimmered when she moved. Her mother adjusted the veil with trembling hands. You look like every prayer I ever whispered. Camila smiled, but beneath the surface something stirred. A flicker. Not fear, not nerves. A kind of stillness, as if the air had paused to listen. Across the courtyard, Malik adjusted his ivory jacket. His best man, his cousin, fussed with the lapels until they laughed. Malik didn't need a mirror. He knew the only reflection that mattered was waiting beyond those double doors. The ceremony began. Guests seated beneath the arch of white roses, an altar that overlooked the sea, which stretched endlessly beneath them. The music swelled, the doors opened, and Camila walked. Every step was a memory. Playing in the garden with muddy hands. The first kiss under jasmine vines. The argument in college that ended with a handwritten note on her pillow. Malik, standing at the altar, saw it all in her face. Their vows were not perfect. They were real. Camila spoke of growing with him, of being held, not owned, of choosing him again and again. Malik's voice cracked when he said she was his home, his architecture of hope. The guests wept. When the ring slipped onto trembling fingers, there was thunderous applause. But as they kissed beneath the twilight sky, Camila's breath caught. Just for a moment, not from the kiss, not from the crowd, from a sudden gust of wind that lifted her veil slightly and sent it tumbling, catching on a rose arch behind her. She turned briefly to see it hanging there, like a banner left behind. She smiled. But something inside her whispered, "Take note." The reception followed. Golden chandeliers, laughter echoing off glass walls, dancers whirling, toasts rising. Camila floated through it, Malik beside her, friends embracing them, parents glowing. But then her father called for quiet. He stood at the center of the room, raising a glass, his voice calm and clear. "This is not just a marriage," he said. "It's a legacy, a promise, and I wanted to give you something that reflects that." He gestured toward the open terrace, and there it was, a black and gold helicopter waiting on the estate's private helipad. its blades idle, its form sleek, elegant, almost unreal against the setting sun. Gasps. Applause. Camilla's eyes wide, her father smiled. A short tour of the coast, just the two of you, something to mark this night in the sky. She turned to Malik. He shrugged, grinning. One more adventure? She nodded, but inside, the stillness returned, the kind that comes before thunder. They boarded just after sunset. The sky had turned a deep indigo, the kind of color you only see once the world has quieted. Below, the celebration still echoed faintly, music, laughter, the clink of glasses drifting up like ghostly echoes. Inside the helicopter, it was still. Luxurious seats, polished paneling, a faint scent of leather and jasmine, Camilla's perfume. She slipped her fingers into Malik's, squeezing gently as the pilot began the pre-flight check. Her dress rustled softly as she shifted in her seat, the embroidery brushing against his leg. "You okay?" Malik asked. She smiled. "Better than okay." The rotors began to spin, slow at first, then faster, lifting them off the mountain. The estate shrank beneath them, first a glowing jewel, then a flicker, then nothing but memory. Ahead, the coastline, endless, black, beautiful. Cape Town's lights shimmered in the distance. The ocean glinted silver beneath the moon, calm and hypnotic. The world spread out before them like a story only they could read. Camilla leaned her head against Malik's shoulder. "This feels unreal," she whispered. He kissed the top of her hair. "For me, it's always been real, since we were kids." For a few minutes, there was only quiet, the rhythmic hum of the blades, the warmth of two bodies sharing space, the intimacy of altitude. Then, a shift. Subtle, like the air thickened. The helicopter dipped, just a little, but enough to make Camilla grip the seat. Malik looked at the pilot. "Is that normal?" "Crosswind," the man replied calmly. "Nothing serious." But his knuckles tightened on the controls. Another jolt. This one sharper. The cabin lurched. A warning light blinked red on the panel. Camilla sat upright, heartbeat quickening. "Malik?" The pilot's voice came through the headset again, more urgent now. "We've got unstable airflow. Trying to adjust." Then came the sound no passenger ever forgets. A groan in the machinery. A twist in gravity. The helicopter tilted hard to the left. Malik reached for her instantly, wrapping his arms around her. The ocean spun outside the window. "Hold on," the pilot shouted. "I'm trying to stabilize." But it was too late. The rotors caught an unexpected gust and jerked. The nose dipped. Warning sirens screamed. The cabin lights flickered. Camilla's scream caught in her throat. Malik pulled her closer. Then silence broke, not the peaceful kind, the kind that comes before impact, before fire, before everything changes. Impact. There was no warning left, no more time to hold on. The helicopter struck the cliffside with a violence that shattered the night. Metal screamed. Glass exploded into needles of light. The rotors snapped mid-spin. One blade tore through the air like a guillotine. The other buried itself into the mountain. Camilla didn't remember the fall, only the moment after. Smoke. Silence. A weight pressing down on her chest that wasn't just debris, but reality. Her head throbbed. Something warm ran into her eye. She blinked. Blood. Her ears rang. Somewhere nearby. Fire. She turned. Malik. His body was slumped forward, half out of his seat, his white suit darkened with ash and streaked with red. She reached for him. Her arms didn't want to move, but she forced them. Her fingers found his pulse, shallow, fluttering like a trapped bird. He was alive, but barely. Flames licked the tail of the aircraft. The wreckage rested at an angle, half on rock, half dangling over the sea. Any shift could send them tumbling. Camilla coughed. The smoke burned her lungs, her throat raw with each breath. "Malik," she rasped, shaking him, tears blurring her vision. "Wake up, you have to move, please." His eyelids fluttered. "Cammy." Just one word, but it was enough. She dragged herself toward him, muscles screaming. The dress, once a masterpiece, was torn, blood-soaked, catching on shards of metal as she crawled. Inch by inch, she pulled him with her, out through a jagged break in the fuselage. The moment they hit the ground outside, another explosion erupted behind them. The force sent them rolling down the slope. Camilla hit stone, hard. Her vision went white, then black, then color returned, in slow, broken frames. She turned her head. Malik lay a few feet away, crumpled, unmoving. She crawled to him, his breathing barely there, his lips parted, eyes half closed. She cradled his face. "Stay with me, Malik, please." His fingers twitched. "I'm here," he whispered. And then, from above, the remaining wreck groaned and gave way. It tumbled. Down, down, into the dark. A final blast of flame lit the sea below. Camila flinched, shielding Malik with her body. The heat rushed past them like a scream. And then there was quiet. Real quiet, only the wind and the slow rhythm of Malik's fading breath. They lay there, tangled in blood and ash. She whispered over and over, "Don't leave me. Not now, not like this." He moved his lips, she leaned close. "I love you," he said. And then, his eyes drifted shut. The sirens came too late. Searchlights pierced the darkness, sweeping across the shattered cliffside like desperate fingers searching for what had already been lost. Rescue teams rappelled down the jagged rock, voices barked orders, radios crackled, but by the time they reached the site, there was only stillness, two bodies, curled together, her hand still clutching his. Camila's veil had come loose in the fall. It drifted with the wind, finally catching on a branch just above the drop-off, where it fluttered, soft and ghost-like, above the sea. They didn't move. They didn't breathe. By sunrise, the world knew. The wedding that had filled social feeds with joy and envy the night before now flooded headlines with horror. The photos of white roses, the glass pavilion, the black and gold helicopter. They were all the same story now. But beneath the grief, a question stirred. What caused the crash? The pilot had no time to send a final transmission. The weather had been clear. The machine state-of-the-art, routine route, experienced crew. But the manifest had been signed by someone outside the charter company. Camila's father. At first it was dismissed, a tragic coincidence, until a technician, quietly, reluctantly, flagged something strange in the maintenance logs. A missing inspection, an altered date. Then, whispers grew louder. The aircraft wasn't scheduled for flight that week. It had been grounded for vibration issues in the tail rotor. Someone had cleared it anyway. And the paper trail ended at a private security firm, one linked to holdings owned by Camila's father. No conclusions, no public accusations, but behind closed doors, murmurs rose. Was it grief? Or guilt? Was it overprotectiveness that spiraled into sabotage? Or something more complicated, an old wound never healed, a father unable to let go? We may never know. What we do know is this: a wedding that should have begun a lifetime ended with silence on a cliff. Camila and Malik, two lives stitched together from childhood dreams, were buried side by side, their caskets wrapped in fabric from her final collection. At the memorial, a child in the front row held something no one had noticed until that moment: Camila's veil. Wind-blown, ash-stained, and still impossibly beautiful. People left in silence that day. Some broken, some angry, all changed. And somewhere, beyond the cliffs of the Western Cape, the ocean still crashes against the rock as if trying to erase the sound of that night. But it never quite does, because some stories refuse to disappear. In life, we often chase the perfect moment, the dream job, the flawless wedding, the grand gesture that promises happiness. But the story of Camila and Malik reminds us that even the most beautiful days can turn in an instant. Their love was real, deep, and years in the making. Yet no amount of planning, wealth, or tradition could protect them from the fragility of fate. One of the deepest truths this story reveals is that love is not measured by longevity, but by presence. What we build with someone, the shared memories, the quiet support, the laughter between moments, is what truly lasts. We're reminded to cherish those we hold close, not someday, but now. To forgive faster, to listen more deeply, to speak love aloud before silence takes the chance away. And perhaps more importantly, to examine the intentions behind our actions. Even gifts can carry weight we don't understand. For those of us watching, the lesson is clear. Beauty is fleeting, control is an illusion, and time is the most generous and the most unforgiving force we know. So live gently, love honestly, and never assume tomorrow is promised. Because sometimes all we have is the moment we're in. Some stories don't end with answers, they end with echoes. Camila and Malik had everything: time, love, family, legacy. But maybe what they didn't have was choice. Or maybe someone else made a choice for them. We can only guess what truly happened in the air that night. But what we do know is this: love, no matter how deep, can't escape the shadows of control. Now we want to hear from you. If you believe what happened was a tragic accident, something no one could have predicted, comment 1 below. But if you feel that something deeper was at play, that the gift might have carried another purpose, comment 2. Your voice matters. And so does the way we choose to see stories like this. Because sometimes, truth hides in the silence.